brother?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. Feeling good about this 5-game winning streak.
Oh, absolutely, man. Second episode of the Red Glare podcast, and couldn't have started off better if we can say so, man. For the Rockets, for sure.
Maybe we started the shift in energy. I don't want to take all the credit, but since we had this podcast, we've been winning, man.
That's true.
That's a great thing. It's a great thing.
Absolutely, man. Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce us to everybody watching, man?
Yeah, man. My name's Paul. Some of y'all might know me by my last name, Trinidad. And yeah, dude, Rockets aficionado. I've been watching them since I was a kid. And, we started this podcast recently. It's episode 2. And there's none other than my boy Alec right here. And, we go way back. Alec's been following Houston sports just as long as I. And, we're going to be kicking some hot takes to y'all and just kind of spreading across specifically the Rockets, but more broadly Houston sports and a couple, big topics that you're also going to see in the media as well.
Absolutely. And they may be hot topic. They might be hot takes for you guys, but all I do is spit facts. That's all it is. If you don't agree with it, you're just wrong. That's all I can say.
Yeah, you got to change your mind up.
Yeah. But you can find me on Twitter, guys, at AlecMiller0423. Pretty sure you can find me on Instagram the same, and mostly you'll just see probably just me. Like last night, I just posted a picture of my son wearing his Bad Bunny shirt because he loves Bad Bunny.
I saw that.
Yeah,
really good on him.
Absolutely. But man, I'm really excited to get to this. Some big great news in terms of the Rockets. There's some pretty depressing news with Texans, and kind of just waiting for news.
Yeah.
For the Astros, really.
Yeah, do something. Yeah, man. I mean, Rockets are playing right now, so I guess we could check in.
Absolutely, I'll do that right now.
Looks like Alec will bring us up to speed.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah.
Second. It is definitely looking good. You guys
looking good. What we got, man?
Yes, we are. Right there. It's about 4 minutes in the second quarter, and the Rockets are up 61-42. If we look at,
gotta love that, man.
If we can look at some stats, if I can find some. Let's see. All right, here we go. We have Christian Wood is at about 12 point rebounds. Absolutely. Got John Wall right below him with 11 points, 3 rebounds, 4 assists. Victor Oladipo, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. And Eric Gordon coming in with the 10 points. That's the number I'd like to see now, honestly.
No doubt.
And then Thunder real quick, just to get a little glance. Al Horford, Darius Bazley, and Luguentz Dort, all with 7 points. And that's kind of might be why they're struggling.
Yeah. Shai Gilgeous got to do more, man. He's the face of that franchise now.
Mm-hmm.
He's got to take over, man. He's got the green light, so I want to see more buckets out of him.
Without a doubt. And I also did get a ESPN basically thing saying Wood empowers Al Horford. Christian Wood goes up strong for his 2-handed dunk.
Nice.
Kind of the MVP of this whole era of the Rockets. Right?
Oh, for sure. I totally agree. He's just getting it done, man.
Ooh, and my brother Corey coming in dropped 48 in the first. Wow.
Man. Wow, dude. Well, we really are in the modern NBA. I want to say in one of the games in the past week, even the Rockets, they put their third highest in a half or a quarter. Not sure if you saw that, but they've definitely been putting up buckets. So that's a good stat. Thanks for sharing that, Corey, pointing that out to us.
Yeah, and you know what? And it's not coming from the three or the 3 or 4 fast breaks like we've been so used to.
Right.
It's coming off the end of defense. Great defense that's been played by these Rockets lately. I believe they're first? Did you say they're first in defensive efficiency since
Yeah, I saw a tweet with one saying we were first and one saying we were second. I'm not sure who was correct, but you got to be happy either way. we basically flipped that switch since Harden left the team. Completely new identity. I guess maybe it is a knock on James Harden or something happened, but you can see the defensive mentality is completely switched up.
Mm-hmm.
I also shared a tweet with you, Alec. Let me go ahead and reference that since we're on the topic. And what we have here is it's a comparison of both Brooklyn and the Rockets themselves. Okay, so for anyone wondering out there, so since the Harden trade, the Rockets and the Nets both have a 6-3 record. However, the Rockets have the best defensive rating in the NBA, and the Nets now have the worst defensive rating in the NBA.
That's right. Yes.
So yeah, man, I guess the trade's paying off for both teams. Not so great for Brooklyn defensively, but for us, it's definitely paying benefit already.
And I'm actually gonna go out on a limb and say I'm not gonna blame this exactly the Rockets' successes and the Nets, even though they're not really failing. They have the same exact record as us since the Harden trade, but they are on the farther end of the defensive rating. I'm actually going to put that more on the coaches, the head coaches that are for each respective team.
Okay.
Silas, who I think puts a lot of emphasis on defense and how that can create offense, and and everyone really buying in. John Wall's great defense. Oladipo's out there, being a pest. Christian, I can't even say enough great things about Christian Wood this past year. And Boogie too, man. Boogie too has been really clamping down on defense. And then you have Steve Nash on the Brooklyn side, who's never really been known for his defense.
Yeah.
By any account, really. Like he's a purely offensive guy, and he is maybe bringing in a more offensive system. And these guys are scoring a lot of points over there in Brooklyn. They're just for some reason getting outscored in some cases.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I watched, we'll probably go full circle a lot here in the show, but I watched the game with Washington versus Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. And wow, man, the amount of missed defensive assignments by Brooklyn was pretty surprising, man. Almost shocking. You can kind of walk in. And I think that's where I've noticed their weakest point in Brooklyn is that they don't have any interior defense. So most teams, they get around Harden, they get around Kyrie, even around KD. I mean, the guy's coming off the ACL. And once they get past these guys in the front three, I mean, it's easy buckets, man. Westbrook, Bradley Beal, they just had a field day. Once they got inside, they were scoring. You have DeAndre Jordan, but he's still a shadow of a player that he used to be. And then also in that Harden trade, they gave up Jared Allen, so he was their only other kind of big guy. And I think they're honestly more desperate than ever to get somebody like JaVale McGee in there because they need someone to have some hands up and some length because they're looking shallow in their interior defense.
Yeah, man, I 100% agree. When your best big is DeAndre Jordan, that's a problem. That a long time ago, 3-4 years ago, that wouldn't be the case. But this is the case now with this DeAndre Jordan, and it's nothing against him. He's just gotten older, man. He's age.
Right.
Father Time is undefeated. Father Time has not been beaten by anybody, and that team just doesn't have anybody in the middle. And then when you look at what Jared Allen is doing over there in Cleveland. It really makes you wonder, like, I mean, damn, like I kind of wish we got him now. Like when you
seriously,
it's fantastic. It's great, and it's a big loss for Brooklyn. And I'm wondering, especially once we get to these standings a little later, like how things are going to be measured out. Like we're already seeing it in the Western Conference too. Like the standings have kind of drastically changed in terms of team, because of this game is all about runs, and one of the biggest win streaks in the entire NBA right now just got ended last night with the Jazz.
Oh,
that's when like 15-game winning streak.
Man. They basically climbed to first place in the West, and we had covered them in the show last week, and they were still doing good, third or fourth, but they completely climbed up the West, and like you mentioned, even the Rockets, right? We're riding I think we're tied for 8th now.
Absolutely.
the East shifted a lot. Dallas got worse, which was surprising. So yeah, we'll get back to that. We want to bring up the standings on the show. If it's cool with you, Alec, I wanted to circle back to the Wizards because that was the first game after our initial episode. And, we saw Westbrook versus John Wall, which kind of had its own history, but made it even better because now they were each playing their former teams. And ultimately, the Rockets won. It was a great display of what this team has become, attacking from all different cylinders. And then, we also saw some of the frustrations going on in Washington itself, represented by Westbrook. I mean, what do you think about? Do you have anything to add, just in general, about that Wall Westbrook matchup or the Rockets Wizards matchup in general?
I would say it was a really great game. It was a really fun game to watch back and forth. Some of those players in Washington are really good if they could just put it all together. But it was really just fun to see. First of all, it was the first time we've had basically the Power Four starting all playing at the same time. Not starting because in a kind of refreshing look, Boogie actually came off the bench and he looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Once again, it was all Christian Wood really in that first half, and Oladipo, I believe, hadn't really done much until the very end. You had that sick layup that John Wall did.
Ooh,
that was amazing. That was beautiful.
Was that behind the back kind of under one? Oh my gosh,
that was beautiful, and just seeing kind of an athleticism that we've never seen, that I haven't seen on these Rockets for a long time.
Right.
Back to like past Rockets teams, James Harden, he's great at getting to the line, but he doesn't really give you those flashy. He'll give you a step back three and maybe a nice little layup every now and then, but nothing like this. Before that, Kevin Martin, what was Kevin Martin doing? Shooting threes.
Yeah.
It was amazing, like the kind of athleticism that we were seeing from this team with Christian Wood, with John Wall, and with Oladipo. Oladipo started to turn it up too, and it was just fun to see. I believe that game, I'm trying to find the game actually to take a look at the score from it.
Okay.
But we had leading in points was John Wall with 24, and then you had Eric Gordon and Victor Oladipo at 20, and DeMarcus Cousins at 19.
Wow.
Sorry, I was wrong. Christian Wood was out that game. I think he returned the next game against.
He returned the next. You're right.
But this one was just a good game to see. One of my biggest things that I did notice, though, and kind of sucks, honestly, is PJ kind of looks lost out there.
Oof.
And I think
you're right.
I think it's because he doesn't have he kind of has to move around a little bit more in this offense and really try to not find his shot, but find his spot. Whereas normally he would just kind of stand in the corner and wait for Harden to get that three to him and it'd be wide open every time. It's just
exactly. Yeah, he definitely played off of Harden. PJ Tucker, hell of a teammate. He adapted most of his game to match with James Harden. Like you said, the corner three. Sometimes, Harden would kind of find him on a small cut inside. Mm-hmm. That was more rare, but, it would happen from time to time. I did want to bring that up because I am noticing a couple players struggling. And we can get back to how our, big four are performing. But, there's the question of there's three people who kind of stick out to me. There's PJ Tucker.
Yep.
There's Eric Gordon.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Ben McLemore. So, they're kind of from this past team trying to find their minutes on this team. So far, Eric Gordon has been fine, right? But I think, as Rockets fans, most of us know the consistency with Eric Gordon is usually like a big question. So when Eric's hitting his threes, most Rockets fans love him. It makes everything easier. But the problem is that consistency, right? So I think going down the line, we have to see how Eric Gordon performs in these next, 10 games or so, because eventually the trade deadline is going to come up, right? And the Rockets look like a competitive team right now. So, do you do more stuff to try and push this team over the edge? Do you want to make some more moves to get better defensively? And like you mentioned, what is PJ doing, man? The guy's putting up 2 or 3 points a game. So you got to love his defense, his tenacity on D, and guarding some of the better players in the NBA. But you also have to wonder how much is he kind of hurting the offense and the flow and Steven Silas and the system that he's trying to input. There definitely has to be a better fit out there. But we have to give these guys time to adapt. And then the last guy is Ben McLemore. He struggled getting minutes with D'Antoni, and it looks like he's still struggling to get minutes in Silas's offense. Why, I'm not too sure. The guy can shoot amazing from 3. But that's just what we have to look at. And there has to be some better players out there that possibly the Rockets can maybe bring in. It looks like we got some comments as well. If we could go ahead and address those.
Yeah. So first, Miles.
What's up, Miles?
How you doing, man? Thank you for joining us. And I didn't want to bring it up. We'll cover it a little bit more once we get to the Pelicans game. But my brother had to make about the Pelicans. But,
for sure, I got some notes here too.
I think with Ben McLemore is one of those guys that's gonna fit on a team, on a win now team that is like maybe short on 3-point shooters.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that's the identity of this Rockets team here. It's more of a set offense with these Rockets, or running deep, or running on the fast break, because
fast break, right?
But that's not what these Rockets aren't the 3-point shooting like we said with Ben McLemore. And my thing about Ben McLemore is I've always been like hot and cold with Ben McLemore. And I think it's just showing more with the fact that he kind of has to be in a more of a set offense, or running down I saw a couple plays, I think it was against the Washington Wizards, where he was running on the fast break and just made, boneheaded mistakes. And he's just not fit for that play system. But like you said, with Gordon, he's really started to find his footing. And you're right, you do kind of see with Eric Gordon, you're seeing more of those 0-0s and then a bunch of points. So against Washington, I believe he didn't have any rebounds, no assists, but he put down 20 points.
Right.
The game against Trailblazers, he put up 4 rebounds, one assist, and 8 points. So he's just doing more of the scoring, which is okay because he's not the focal point of this offense. And with PJ, I don't know. It's just, I think PJ might be the one that you could actually get some value from. I don't necessarily know if people are gonna want Eric Gordon. Maybe a Clippers team, maybe a Milwaukee. Milwaukee's always trying to shooters around Giannis, so for that. But PJ is one of those guys that'll be a deep into the playoffs type of guy that's going to be playing hard, and that any team would want that.
Definitely, and somebody's going to need that defender. I think also what's interesting about this is the young guys that the Rockets got. Like, they're the ones kind of putting the pressure on this whole scenario of if these guys need to be moved or not. Mm-hmm. You got Nwaba coming off the bench, and the dude's full of energy. Just a young guy hustling. Like, there's a reason. I think I heard the Pelicans announcer say, he got a steal and laid it up. He said, "There's a reason that guy's in the NBA, man." He's young, but he's eager. And even though he plays more of like a guard or a 3 role, like, he's still an example of what the young Rockets are coming up and looking like, adding pressure to that. And this was the game against Washington. Perfect.
Yeah, this is the game against Washington because I wanted to point out, like, when we're mentioning players, you look at Ben McLemore down here at the bottom, and he's got 2 minutes and put up nothing. Whereas you got Daniel House, 2 points, but then you have David Nwaba, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, points. That's very quality time. That's some great quality time right there. You look at Sterling Brown too. Sterling Brown has been putting up pretty decent numbers. Let me see. I can go to the other games, and it's just kind of the more of the same. Of you go down to the bottom to see those stats, and Macklemore didn't even play in that game, but you had Daniel House 11 points.
Daniel House, yep.
Sterling Brown 6, and things like that. Jayshon Tucker's. Tate's kind of struggling a little bit, but he's still getting quality minutes.
Yeah, man. I mean, he matched what PJ put up, and that's what's crazy about it too. Is like PJ those last 2 games. I mean, he put up 2 points in the first 2 games. 60 minutes, and he's only putting up 2 points. I mean, here against the Pels, you could tell obviously just by the box score he was a little bit more active, but this is at a minimum what the Rockets need from PJ every night. Couple boards, 5 points, and hey, move that ball around, but pass it to the open guy. You literally have like 4 all-star caliber players now. Get some assists, man.
Absolutely, man. And same thing here. You have Nwaba again. Nwaba is really kind of trying to put in his name for their, I don't know what, like 6th man of the year or something, dude. He's really trying to go out there and give it his all, and that's what this team needs. This team needs young guys who are willing to go out there and just put it all out there. You look at right here for tonight's game, Eric Gordon 15, looking good. And then you have Daniel House 7. Tate has 6 points. Like that's really good for somebody as young as him and willing to come out. Looks like Nwaba, Martin Jr. Everyone else really hasn't played much today. But Ben McLemore has played about 4 minutes, so that's
okay.
Bad. But it's really coming down to those Christian Wood, John Wall, Oladipo, Eric Gordon, Boogie too. Boogie 2's been pretty quiet tonight too. That's kind of surprising.
Yeah, Boogie's. I feel like Boogie has made a lot of big plays. He hasn't exactly been consistent, but he's already one of the better 3-point shooters on the team, and he's just kind of like making plays when we need him, which you got to take it. Sure, if that's how they come with Boogie off the bench, that's great. I mean, I think Nwaba's out tonight. Okay, that makes sense. And I think there was a stretch. It might have been against the Wizards, or we were texting during the game, and we were just like, Bill Worrell's like, it looks like a YMCA out here, So I think going into the future, the Rockets are going to kind of pick up that pace, man. They're starting to figure out how to play with each other. You got John Wall in the attack. John Wall's constantly attacking, and Christian Wood is constantly getting buckets. And sometimes with those guys and the way they're playing, it's easy for defenses to get a little bit lost, and then all of a sudden Oladipo hits you. And I think that's sort of the beauty of what Silas is creating. And I just hope that, by the time playoffs come around, that we get a chance to kind of do that, because it's going to be a lot more schematic than what we've seen the past couple of years with a Mike D'Antoni offense. And I think we'll be able to adjust more based on the system we play in.
Yeah. And so going back to like the Rockets, because we did mention the Rockets and Pelicans, my brother said last game against Pelicans, they've been using PJ as a roller off of screens, and it's been effective getting his floater going and allowing him to be a playmaker as well. And that's what it's going to come down to is really, like we said, Tucker, Gordon, they have to learn to adjust. And they're doing a pretty decent job of adjusting. I do think that even though Tucker is kind of starting to find his way in the system, I do think he might be the odd man out. He might be a guy who, not necessarily because we don't need him, but somebody closer to the trade deadline is going to be wanting his value off.
Some trade bait.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with getting more assets for the future, because Steven Silas, to me, even though this is he came into a hardened team, I think that they understand, like, hey, this is going to take a little bit of time to put it together. Let's let this kind of play out. And so far, they might be a little bit ahead of schedule, especially after the Harden trade. I know I'm pleasantly surprised, even though I knew this was a good team, even without Harden, just to see how they've all gelled together. I mean, it's really something to look forward to.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's a good point. Like, I want to see how they perform against some of the better teams in the NBA. Like, I heard earlier in the season, like Christian Wood had the game against the Lakers like circled on his calendar, and
Mm,
then we played the Lakers, but that was still with Harden, and it was kind of a blowout, right? It was kind of one of those final straws of Harden was like, I'm done.
yeah.
So I want to see games like that, kind of with a rematch with the team more focused. I want to see how Christian Wood does against AD, how Christian Wood can perform against Giannis, and compare him on that scale to see where he's at. But now we also got the rotation. Now Depot and John Wall are going to be putting in buckets regardless. And one thing that's underrated about Boogie is just his experience overall. He was even though he didn't make it on both teams, he had a lot of experience with both Golden State and the Lakers.
Mm,
Before some trades happened, and he got playoff minutes. I mean, he even played in the finals with the Warriors when after KD went out. There was
yeah.
no way he was going to win that finals by that point, but he's gotten that experience, and I'm hoping that Boogie, as we get past the trade deadline to that second half of the season, that he'll bring some of that veteran presence because these young guys will definitely need it.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that this team is really ahead of schedule because right now all we're saying is just get in, guys. Just get in, make the playoffs, and prove yourself again. Just to get those extra minutes. Because think about it, Oladipo really is the only one with actual playoff experience. John Wall doesn't have that much. Christian Wood hasn't had any playoff experience at all. Boogie's never been the player on a playoff team really, because back when in his prime he was on the Kings, and the Kings were never making the playoffs. So just getting in against a team like the Lakers, like the Clippers, or like we'll talk about later, like the Utah Jazz, maybe.
Yeah,
getting in a nice little series and just making sure it's not a sweep would be a win in my book, really.
right. You definitely when you have a good team, you definitely don't want to say things like next year. But I could imagine a year from now, this team is going to be really primed, to be a top 4 team in the West. Best case scenario. Even this year they can easily get to maybe like a 6 seed as their ceiling. But hey man, you never know. You get in the playoffs and you never know. That's the whole point. You make it to the dance. I also wanted to circle back because there was a couple of moments that I liked here in this whole winning streak, and one, it was kind of Wall exchanging words with Westbrook, and then the second one I sent you the video of was House hitting the 3 on Melo, and then kind of giving him some lip afterwards.
Yeah,
and I just love that so much, man, because it just reminded me like these are the new Rockets and they're trying to assert themselves to everyone. Same way Christian Wood told Shaq, "You're casual, man." They're doing that to the league, man. They're doing that to their opponents, and they're letting them know that they're here, dude. And I just love that. I don't know if you want to add anything to that because we got pretty fired up last week.
Oh yeah, man. Well, yeah, because I'm gonna have to hop off for 1 second, but I'm gonna say I love seeing that. To me, one of my things. I know people are always like sportsmanship. Sorry, guys, I never really played sports that much, so I don't really give a damn about sportsmanship. If you're gonna do something, look good doing it, and let them know that you're doing it, and let them know that you're doing it good. Like I have no problem with Daniel House mouthing off to Melo. That's more of a respect thing, I think, that Daniel House, because Daniel House, a lot of people looked at him as the reason why the Rockets didn't play very well against the Lakers in the playoffs last year, because he had that incident. So I think he's here to shut people up. I think guys like Christian Wood are trying to prove that they weren't signed by the Rockets for as much money as they signed them for no reason. Like he's going to put on a show. Like as much as the Houston is a pretty decent market, and he went from Detroit, which is not a bad market, but he came to a much bigger market, and I love that signing as soon as it was made, and I love what he's doing. Same with Wall and Boogie, really trying to, and Oladipo, man. Like Oladipo was kind of the guy thrown into this trade to the Rockets for a younger Karis LeVert, and now he has something to prove. This is a team that has a lot to prove, and I love that they are kind of putting that on their shoulders and saying like, yo, no, we're here. We're not here to just we're not here to be the Harden, like to be dumped on by Harden. We're not here to be the secondary team or whatever. Like we're here to ball out, and that's what we're here to do. And I'll be right back, but go ahead and continue with more of the games from this past week.
For sure, brother. Yeah, and there's something I want to rant on to anyone listening, and that is Zion Williamson. So, man, just watching this game against the Pelicans, I'm starting to feel for Zion, man. The kid doesn't have too much help. That's kind of what I'm noticing overall. We see him, still struggling to kind of get his physical shape back. He's trying to become an athlete, right? But he's still a young man, right? He's still developing, coming off an injury. But man, when I watch the Pelicans, they're just struggling overall. Lonzo's still not really developing a shot, not really putting up too much points. And not to mention, Brandon Ingram's really great, but I don't know if he's still being assertive enough with his shot, right? So that's one thing that worries me because if they're going to build culture around Zion, they need some people who are a little bit more tough. And when I say tough, I mean attacking, right? I don't see Lonzo attacking. Ingram kind of attacks, but he's more of a B option to Zion. He's more of a sidekick. And then, you look at the rest of the team. I mean, there's some defense there, but that's about it. And that's where they fall short. So when it comes to Zion, man, I really want to see him play with another point guard. A lot of people love Lonzo, which is cool. I'll respect people's opinions on Lonzo. I try not to form my own because of the things that his dad says. And that's cool. But I just want to see Zion play with a bit of a different style point guard, because Lonzo doesn't really attack the bucket. He's inconsistent with the shot a lot. So I want to see a point guard run a pick and roll with Zion a little bit more. I want to see a point guard that can get a three and also drive it and then kick it out to Zion for a three, because Zion's game, although it's still young, he definitely has a lot of tools in his belt. The kid can hit threes. He knows how to drive in. He doesn't have a lot of mid-range shots, but he has a lot of mid-range moves to get to the bucket. And not to mention his rebounding is great too. So I want to see the Pelicans make some moves here, man. They've already mentioned, trading JJ Redick. I'm not sure what they'll get back for JJ Redick, truthfully. I mean, the teams they mentioned were the Sixers, the Celtics, or Brooklyn, right? So I guess there's a Northeastern preference there. But truthfully, I mean, yeah, why not move JJ? Move him out. Things have to change. So if you need to move JJ, that's fine. He's an older vet. He's a 3-and-D guy. Put him on a contender. Let him do what he needs and get some younger assets. Also, that's the point of letting younger guys play. So it's great that they have Steven Adams, but they need to get their next centers ready to go. And that includes Jackson Hayes. Jackson Hayes, just like Jarrett Allen, University of Texas product. And UT has some great centers. Also Mo Bamba is in the league. Right now they have Jericho Sims. So much talent coming out that center position. But the thing about these centers that come from UT and go to the league is that they need more development, right? Most of these guys, Mo Bamba, Jericho Sims, even Jared Allen, they play 1 or 2 seasons and then they headed to the league, which it's cool. It's fine. But at the same time, they need to be in a culture that's going to refine their game a little bit more. And when I watch Jackson Hayes and the Pelicans, that's what I'm a bit worried about is, are they developing these guys? Are they developing the team to play better around Zion? And most importantly, are they developing Zion correctly? So, it's great that Zion has this explosiveness and is a playmaker and can get some buckets, even though he's a power forward. That's great. But what are you building around him, both on and off the court? I'm a little bit worried about where they're going with that. So, like I said, I'd like to see another point guard in there, somebody to kind of mix it up, and then keep Brandon Ingram. Why not? He's a strong scorer. He can be the number one occasionally. And if you just have a point guard that's going to put up some points, put up some buckets and assists, I mean, that'd be a thing of beauty right there. Not to mention you have Steven Adams as your defensive anchor as well. So, I wanted to circle back on the point about Zion. And then, specifically the game against the Pelicans, I mean, the Rockets were rolling, man. There was nothing stopping them. Everybody was eating that game. And, right before the second half, they were just getting buckets. They extended the lead big time. We had Depot firing from three. What's up, Alex? So I just recapped a little bit about Zion, kind of my general thoughts on the Pelicans, kind of how they've not really created much culture around him, and then I was just getting back to the point that we kind of kicked their ass when we played them because of that.
Yeah, man. Pelicans are kind of one of my big disappointments for the year. I was really expecting a lot from them, just to get better, but it seems like they've really regressed this year. So that's definitely disappointing to see.
Yeah, man. I was also mentioning there's some trade rumors around JJ Redick right now to either Boston, Philly, or Brooklyn. I don't know what Brooklyn needs him for. I mean, I guess he might be their best defender.
They better not do that. Like, really, they should probably be on the phone. The Nets should probably get back on the phone with us for PJ. Need some defense, but you do not
absolutely
need 3-point shooting.
Yeah, man. So we'll see. I think I'd like him a whole lot better on the Sixers. I mean, that'd be interesting.
Back over there.
Yeah, back over there. But you could also make the point about Boston being the best team if they got him.
Yeah, for sure. You want to go ahead?
These standings.
Yeah, these standings, man. So this is the Western Conference right here. You got the Clippers back at number 1, the Jazz at number 2, and Lakers right underneath there with at 15 and 6, and the Nuggets right underneath that. And it's kind of a big gap between the Nuggets and the Lakers, but it's at least at the top. It's between those three: Clippers, Jazz, Lakers, and it's kind of nice to see the Jazz kind of do what they're doing, especially after what disrespect Donovan Mitchell went through.
Definitely. Yeah, completely uncalled for disrespect. What do you think about the fact that the team that ends the Jazz's streak is the Nuggets, and also the team that came back to beat them 3-1 in the bubble in the playoffs was also the Nuggets? Seems like maybe they might be in their head. What do you think?
I think there's a legit rivalry going on between these two teams. I think you have two extremely young teams. You have Donovan Mitchell on the Jazz side and why am I?
Gobert?
Jamal Murray.
Jamal Murray and the Nuggets, right?
On the Nuggets, like those two were really just battling it out. Like really, that's what that series came down to, was who scores the last bucket, and it just happened to be Jamal Murray. But these two might be creating a legit rivalry that I love to see when it comes to younger guys going after each other. It's kind of similar to like the NFL when you see Mahomes and Deshaun go after each other, like play against each other. Is this the new KD LeBron of the future? Is this the new, I don't know, Kobe and LeBron or something like that, or the big three versus the big three in Boston versus the big three in Miami when it happened back when LeBron was there in Miami? Like these are the new rivalries that we have to look forward to the future, and I think that's what we've seen. I don't know if the Nuggets are in the Jazz head or if it's just great competition.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. That's definitely a unique way to look at it. What speaking of rivalries, I mean, what about the rivalry that everyone wants that just doesn't happen, and that's the Lakers and Clippers?
Yeah, man. Honestly, the best thing really would be for either the Clippers or the Lakers to be the lower tier so that they eventually meet, because otherwise one of these teams might get taken out early. Maybe the Clippers will be better, will fare a little better off this year with, Doc Rivers, who kind of just seemed like he was out of it already, ready with LA. Maybe they'll be faring off a little bit better. And I mean, it's obviously working. They're 16-5. They play fantastic, and Kawhi is kind of balling out every chance that he plays. And they're also, they're still going about their their load management. They're still doing that,
right?
So I don't know, man. It's just not. It's not a rivalry to me yet. It's just.
I agree.
Kawhi and LeBron haven't really faced off against each other. Not this Kawhi and LeBron.
Right. And I think it's like a narrative the media is really trying hard to push. And it didn't happen in the bubble. Everyone kind of wanted, the media definitely wanted it to happen, and it didn't. I think most people kind of moved on from that point, but you still have the media pushing it. So I think, for this to be a legit rivalry, I mean, I think I would go as far as Kawhi would have to have a better game than LeBron, beat him in the playoffs, and then win a championship. I think that's the only way where this would be the new biggest rivalry. Other than that, like you mentioned, I see the Nuggets and Jazz as a better rivalry. And then, maybe Brooklyn and the Lakers could develop into a rivalry over the next couple of years, assuming one of those teams wins this year.
Oh yeah, that's a really good point. We haven't even looked at like who could possibly be there for the for the Eastern Conference in terms of being rivals with the Western Conference.
Yeah.
In the Western Conference, I think the best one that I can really look at is the Jazz and the Nuggets, because they have done it in the playoffs. They did go back and forth. It wasn't like a team, one of those teams dominated. It was legit back and forth between those two, and nobody knew how that was going to end. And we'll take a look at the East Conference in a minute, but just to round it out, you got the Grizzlies at 5, Suns at 6. The Suns have really kind of cooled down, which is surprising. Then you have the Blazers and the Warriors. The Warriors are probably my surprise one. I thought the Warriors without Clay were going to be a lottery pick again, like they were last year. But they've that dude Wiseman's legit. You got Curry playing very well this year, so it's interesting to see. And then right there at the bottom, man, the Mavericks are struggling
for sure.
It looks like maybe Steven Silas played a little bit of bigger hand in the success of that team, because they have not played well at all.
Yeah, that's a good point, man. And, Porzingis has finally come back. A lot of people have high expectations of him. But, they might have to make some trades and mix it up, we've talked about a little bit. I mean, look, let me tell you just one last thing about the Mavs is, I was listening to the podcast of Bomani Jones, and he was basically ranting that most of the media picked Luka Doncic to win MVP before this season started. Everyone was ready for this narrative. Everyone was behind it. They loved the idea of Luka winning it. They didn't want Giannis to win it again for the third time. And so far the season hasn't played out in that favor. I mean, you can't make the argument for Luka as MVP right now. Like he's far removed from it. So, it'll be, I think, you mentioned in the first episode, you expect Dallas to come up a little bit. I do too. I mean, I'd be shocked if they finish the season at this pace. But I also think that media will play a big part of it, and we'll see how much they love Luka and get some of these ref calls during the games.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And you got, I think Shannon Sharpe has said it multiple times on Undisputed. The biggest enemy of success is expectations.
Right.
Expectations put on you, you either rise or you fall. And so far, the Mavericks have definitely fell. That three, I always think back to that three that Luka hit in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the bubble, like that was a star-making shot. Like he was immediately like that. That's one of those shots that will be replayed for all of time, possibly, of that being hit in order to go into overtime. But that was last year. This is this year, and so far, Luka has not been playing well. I can't. The only other player on that team that I can name you besides Porzingis is what's his name? Tim Hardaway Jr. That's the only other.
I was about to say Tim Hardaway.
That's the only player I can think of when that's not man. It's just,
yeah.
Oh man, but then you see, like teams like without that had no expectations, like the Grizzlies, man, that are really starting to rise and shine in this league this year. They are missing a little bit. Do have less games than the other teams. They only have 14. It looks like, whereas everybody else is at about 18, 19 games.
Right.
So that's different, but I think they did have some reschedulings because of COVID and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the Grizzlies, even if they fall a little bit, I think I still expect them, battling for that 7 or 8 spot.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm right there with you.
Let's see that.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man. I mean, you got Houston, you got the Warriors, you got the Grizzlies, and you would think you'd have the Mavericks. Who knows? They might bounce back, but those last 2 spots, like every single year, is going to be competitive in the West.
Oh yeah, the West. That's what the West is known for, man. It always comes down to that last game. It never is solved or figured out in the in the last week. It comes down to that last game always. But let's go ahead and look at the Eastern Conference. So number 1, 76ers, man, still balling, still playing well. James Harden, right?
Yeah.
They don't need no stinking James Harden. But then right underneath that, you have the Nets, and they have since the trade, they are 6-3. So I think I just saw on Twitter, Big Sarge, shout out to Big Sarge here in Houston, said the Rockets and the Nets won the trade, and both can be true. And that I think that's absolutely true. Like they are both winning this trade. There is no winner. There is no loser. They're just they both made the right choice. Obviously, the Rockets will be set up more for the future, whereas the Nets are set up for now, and that's not bad either.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think especially in the media, there's always a narrative of whoever got the superstar won the trade, or But hey, man, it was just a trade that was needed at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. Harden wanted out. The Rockets had to move him. They couldn't play with this disgruntled star. And yeah, man, I mean, we had no future. We also, that's one thing people forget is, Morey traded away a lot of the future stock that we had, and we had to get some of it back, man. So, moving Harden, he's 32, he'll have some 3 or 4 great years with the Nets. But hey, at least we have a future now, and you got to be happy about that.
Yeah, man. And, they're allowing Silas to really make his team kind of take it from scratch, if you will. Yeah. Like, it's not completely from scratch because he has like a bunch of stars. He has a great number of stars on the team, but at the same time, he'll be able to plan for the future and choose his own path going forward. But all right, then you got number 3, the Bucks. 4, the Celtics. Not really any surprises around here. 5, the Pacers. Hawks at 6, Cavs at 7, and the Hornets at 8. Those are my 2 big surprises. The Heat all the way to 7 at 13, and the Raptors at 10. But it's always refreshing. My thing about the West is that it's normally the same teams, but it always comes down to the last game. Whereas it's kind of a merry-go-round. Who's going to make it to the playoffs? This year it looks like it's going to be the Cavs and the Hornets possibly, or even the Knicks. Look at the Knicks playing pretty well. So that's why I like the East. It makes it a little bit more fun, and you get to root for these younger guys. I like seeing LaMelo succeed and Colin Sexton succeed over there in Cleveland and Charlotte. Yeah,
man. Those 2 young guys are some ballers. I also want to shout out to a team you like, and that's the Hawks, because they look natural in that 6 seed, man. It's kind of always been the same top 5 in the East, mm-hmm. and you kind of need some new blood, and that Hawks team, I think they're better than the record shows because, they did get Clint from us, right? They have a lot of great defense. They got Rajon Rondo now, kind of adding a veteran presence. He's definitely going to help Trae Young in those tough playoff games. So I can't wait to see what happens there, man. You never know. You get them against one of these teams slipping up like the Bucks or even Brooklyn, man, and they're gonna take them to 7 for sure. So we'll see how that plays out.
For sure, man. That's the thing. All these teams have they're all young talent, and any playoff experience is good experience. So and that's it. But let's go ahead and make the jump to the football side. Kind of is the pressing side of Houston.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So, the kind of the big news from last episode to this episode was that the Texans hired 65-year-old Coach Dan Culley, who was the wide receivers coach for the Ravens. He doesn't have any head coach experience. He also doesn't have head coach experience. He doesn't have offensive coordinator experience or defensive. And it just added another question mark into what the hell the Texans are doing, man. Do you want to talk about that a little bit before we get into Deshaun?
Yeah, it is nice for the Black community that in Houston we can safely say all 3 coaches of our teams are Black. That is a big step, I think, in the right direction, especially in the NFL. I hate the Rooney Rule. I think the Rooney Rule is dumb. It doesn't help anything. It might even hurt. But, it is what it is. But it is nice to see that happen. However, this isn't the coach that I wanted. I didn't necessarily want Leslie Frazier either, and it seemed like it had come down to Frazier and Bieniemy. So I don't know. It's either the media kind of taking things and running with them without actually knowing what's going on, or the Texans just kind of went in a completely different direction and went for Dan Culley. My main thing, my first thought was, let's give him a shot. But then as soon as Deshaun basically said he wanted out no matter what, I was like, well, this didn't help anything.
Yeah. My big thing with Culley, I think, the thing about the Texans is like, well, what are they doing here, man? I think we keep waiting for these hires or these trades to kind of like shift some culture or pave an identity. And I think once again, we're kind of left wondering like, well, what now? I mean, with all due respect to Culley, I hope he succeeds and I'm sure he's a nice guy, but I think the Texans were just all the Texans fans were kind of just looking for like some reason to cling on to the team.
Yeah.
And maybe Deshaun was too. And I think Bieniemy was kind of the obvious point. I would think, like you said, most would have settled with Frazier, even Jim Caldwell. I mean, he might have. People would have still stuck around, but now you got Culley, and I mean the team is looking like a 5 to 8 year project now, and you just don't exactly know what the future is, especially with the coach that old. And like you mentioned, Deshaun, just said, I'm done. I saw he was being interviewed over the weekend, and they were kind of talking to him. He didn't admit or deny any claims, but they were like, yeah, we can't wait to see you, next year and whatever team you play for. And, he's just full of smiles and laughing. And the fact that he didn't deny it, just confirmed it. Right. So I think he's moving on, man. And I don't know how crazy the Texans are going to get. Jack Easterby might say, hey, man, we're not trading you this year at all. Or it might get ugly. But I think the fact is we all know Deshaun's heart isn't here anymore, and he's ready to move on.
Yeah, I will say I did like the signing of Lovie Smith as defensive coordinator. I think he's a really good defensive coordinator, even though he had his shortcomings in head coaching. But there's a reason these guys become head coaches is because they're really good coordinators, and Lovie Smith is one of those. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. With Deshaun Watson, all right. So I don't think he would hold out. I was listening to First Take today, and I agreed with Stephen A. Smith, and hell's now going to freeze over. But I agreed with Stephen A. Smith in saying that Deshaun came from humble beginnings. he would not. I don't think he would hurt his teammates by not playing and holding out. I don't think he's cut from that cloth. I think he's more of a, he's willing to go out there and he's willing to do his job. But I think Jack Easterby, Nick Casario, and Cal McNair would be crazy to not trade him if he wants out. And I hate saying this. This upsets me to my core. But I think the best move might be to trade him, not only for Deshaun, but for the Texans as well. That kind of, when you have someone who doesn't want to be there, it bleeds through.
Yeah.
And makes other players feel the same way. We already know JJ doesn't necessarily want to be here either. Do you really want guys like a Will Fuller or a Justin Reed or Zach Cunningham to all of a sudden be like, yo, I don't want to be here either? Like, to me, Zach Cunningham and Justin Reed is the future of this defense. You got Charles Omenihu, Ross Blacklock, guys like that, man, that are young and don't have as much years here in the system and are willing to play here. But if you have Deshaun Watson, in that locker room every day, like, those guys will feed off of that and it'll just hurt the team. And definitely so I want to point to the big trade that happened this past weekend, man, which was this one right here. I'm about to pull it up real quick. But it is big time trade. Let me see. There it is. Trade. I'm tripping. And it is the Matthew Stafford trade.
Yeah.
Everyone, and this one was, done kind of quickly. Matthew Stafford comes out, says he's ready to part ways. The Lions say they're willing to accommodate him, and pretty quickly you end up with this. Jared Goff, 2 first-rounders and a third-rounder are going to the Detroit Lions for Matthew Stafford. Now, I like Matthew Stafford, but he is nowhere near the talent that Deshaun Watson is. Deshaun Watson already is a much better player. That's a lot.
Much younger.
Yeah, much younger. That is a haul that the Detroit Lions just got. And the Texans could get a similar haul to what James Harden just brought in for us. Like trading Harden brought for the Rockets, trading Deshaun Watson could do the same. And there's 2 teams that I'm looking at, and I would love to hear your thoughts on what I would see. And once again, I guess my time listening to Stephen A. Smith, he's poisoned my mind, but he says it all comes down to, and I agree with him, what do the Texans front office think of the quarterbacks in this draft? If they think Zach Wilson or Justin Fields is their guy, because Trevor Lawrence will be gone at 1, then I think the Jets is the best spot because they both have multiple first-round picks. They have multiple first-round picks, so you could get a first in this round and a first in the next round next year, and maybe another first from next year or a first after that, and also maybe a third round or second rounder, because to me, like, that's what Deshaun Watson's worth. Or if those guys aren't your guys and you think Tua is better than them, then you trade for Tua and you get maybe 2 first-rounders, because Tua hasn't proven himself to be what everyone thinks he could be, so he's not worth that yet. So maybe getting him on cheap and getting him, and also 2 first-rounders in the making, will be, in my opinion, that's what I would go with, is getting Tua and 2 first-rounders, because I don't necessarily know if I believe in Justin Fields or Zach Wilson yet.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Where would you think?
Well, if you're going to build through the draft, I'd rather take Justin Fields, just because it seems like kind of the shift towards quarterbacks that are a little bit more mobile and playmakers. So I guess if I had to roll the dice in the draft, I would prefer Justin Fields. What worries me about this trade, and I'm thankful that the Stafford trade happened, is if that trade hadn't happened, I don't know if the Texans management would be competent enough to get the haul they deserve for Deshaun Watson. But now that the Matthew Stafford trade happened, it kind of lets them know, hey, you have to do better than this, right? So there's that kind of like assurance that, like you mentioned, it's going to be like a James Harden haul. And even if the GMs are incompetent, at least you know that they're going to get something worth it.
Yeah, there's some kind of measuring stick.
Exactly. The second point that worries me a bit is like the identity of the team and the offense and what they're trying to be. Because when you bring in a 65-year-old head coach, you have to wonder what type of culture are they trying to build exactly? Are they really planning for the future? And if so, I mean, I feel like it has to be obvious, and you build through the draft. But there's like a trade that I heard, which normally sounded okay, and it was basically the Raiders giving up about 4 first-round picks, Derek Carr, one of their better receivers, and a couple other players, and something like that would sound decent. But then Derek Carr under 65-year-old Coley, you got to wonder, well, what exactly are we trying to do here? If you bring in a veteran, you're definitely not in win now mode. You're still years away from that. So say it takes 3 years. Now your coach is getting a bit up in age. You just got to wonder exactly what they're doing. And I guess that's the confusion. So if I had to guess, I'm seeing that the Texans maybe want Coley to start building a new culture. And I think they're going to go the route of the draft. And ideally get Justin Fields is what I would like to see.
Okay. So I'll be interested to see how this plays out now. We're both kind of on separate sides. I would like Tua. You would like Justin Fields. And we'll see how it plays out, though, man. Definitely
we're going to end up with neither.
I hate the fact that we're even talking about this. Like, this really sucks.
Yeah, for sure.
This dude Deshaun is a star. Like, Dabo Swinney called him the Michael Jordan of football for a reason. Like, he is electric. And unfortunately, this team here, the front office here, Cal McNair specifically, are just kind of incompetent and don't know what they're doing. And when you upset your star player like that, man, like, I just don't get it. I really don't. And it's upsetting to see. But that's really all we have in terms of football, really. We're just waiting to see how this plays out. We are getting closer to the draft. The Super Bowl is almost here. So as soon as the Super Bowl is over, that's when Jacksonville is on the clock, really. Like, we're on the road to the draft. So we'll see if something gets done before if something doesn't get done before the draft. Man, it's going to be a long, upsetting season.
Yeah, definitely.
But before we head out, because we are going to be calling it quits for the night pretty soon here, I heard something on the radio that kind of confused me. They were talking about Houston sports, and they said Houston sports is kind of all of Houston sports teams are just kind of on the or are in shambles and in disarray. And I was just like, I was confused by that because I was like, I don't think any other team besides the Texans here is in disarray, because the Rockets seem to be clicking. The Astros, all they really have to deal with now is the loss of George Springer. And, they were able to bring back Michael Brantley, which was really nice to see after a little, for some reason, he was announced to be signing with Toronto literally the day after George Springer signed. And then an hour later, they were like, oh, wait, no, he signed with the Astros.
Yeah, completely weird.
It was either someone got wrong information or Michael Brantley changed his mind. And I'm going to actually lean towards more the maybe – actually, I might lean more towards Brantley might just change his mind, because with George Springer gone, it kind of and Brantley possibly on the go, it was going to leave our outfield in shambles.
Yeah.
And I think the Astros threw a last ditch effort and said, hey, we'll give you – I forgot how much he asked for, but we'll give it to you. And he ended up signing. So the Astros, I don't think, are in disarray. I think they're still a top team this year. There's a reason that even though we have cheated, we'll admit it. will own it. The only player that has owned it really is Correa. That's why I want him to be a Astro forever. But I mean, I still think we're going to be pretty good, pretty set for next year.
I would agree, man. I mean, we were one game away from going back again, so like, I think, it's easy too once you have multiple years of playoff success. I think all of us kind of feel like, yeah, this Astros team could have achieved even more. We could have beat the Nationals and we would have had 2 rings. I think there is some of that, but as a Houston fan, you have to remember this is the best of the Astros ever. Consistently being in the playoffs, just stack lineup, young guys. I mean, this is as good as it gets. So I definitely would agree with that. It's going to be painful to lose Springer. I mean, just because he was home raised. But at the same time, you still have your young guys. I do want Correa to stay at Astro. He's embraced the villain role, and a lot of times in sports, it's first they love you and hate you, then they love you again, man. And I think if the Astros made it all the way to the Dodgers and we won again, they would be giving us love again, man. So
absolutely.
I'm excited, man. I think if the Astros would have got their shot at the Dodgers, they would have taken it to them. And I hope this year they do, because I think the Dodgers will be right back.
I think so too, man. And like you just look at the past like World Series winners. I mean, it was us, and obviously there's that kind of marred by what happened. After that was the Boston Red Sox next year, but we were in that playoffs. We just lost the year after that,
and the Red Sox cheated.
And the Red Sox cheated too. And then where were they the next year? Nowhere near the playoffs. We were there, and we got all the way to the World Series again. And we just lost to a team that was surging at the very right moment in the Washington Nationals. Yeah. And that happened the next year. The Nationals are nowhere to be found in the playoffs, but there we are again. Like there's constant success here in the Astros. I think that when teams bring up the whole cheating thing, it's now one of those things that are just going to be said. It's going to be brought up because they have no argument. So it's the same thing when people bring up Rockets championships, like, oh well, Jordan wasn't playing. Like, I guarantee you, Jordan was playing and probably still would have won those championships. So
at least one.
Where's your argument now? It's kind of going to be that thing that people bring up when they have no argument, and that's what I planned this year. This past year we lost I think we lost to maybe a better team in Tampa. They were just playing at the right moment, and they made a huge mistake in the World Series against the Dodgers. And the Dodgers were owed one, if you think about it. Like they're always there.
They're always there, right?
Yeah, they were due. Like they were definitely due. And at this point, us beating up on the Dodgers, it started to become bullying, and we needed to give them.
Yeah, exactly, man. No, you're right. And I know we're wrapping up soon. And I also just want to add something to that point about the Houston sports being in disarray. If you're listening, check out a Rockets game, man. This team is completely different, way different than you've seen for the past 4 years. So, I know my brothers wasn't the hugest fan of James Harden, but I've been bugging him. Hey, man, look at this new team. They're young, they're hungry, they share the ball, they give effort on both sides. There's a lot to like here coming up in Houston.
Yeah, I definitely think it's much better. It's a much different kind of shock when you watch this this Rockets team compared to past years. It's much different to watch and much more exciting, I think. But and there's a reason why we spent our first 40 minutes of the podcast talking about the Rockets. There's so much to talk about.
Definitely, man. Well,
yeah, let's go ahead and get out of here, man.
Cool, brother. Well, hey, man, I just want to plug the OP podcast show. So that's another podcast I'm a part of. We got a new season coming out, season 3. We're basically going to talk all about Elon Musk and the story of Tesla. So we're going to do that over 8 different episodes. So if you're an entrepreneur, just kind of want to learn about, the richest man in the world, make sure you check that out. Follow me on Instagram with, PL Trinidad right here, and you'll find out the updates.
Absolutely, man. And I have a few things I want to plug. So the first episode of the ANS podcast will be up this Wednesday. Me and Jesus have finally got the logistics together. We'll be going live right before the Alexander Volkov and Alistair Overeem fight that's coming up this weekend to talk everything from the Conor knockout to so much more. I'll even drop in a little bit of Edge winning the Royal Rumble because I was in love with that last night. Thank you, that happened. I'm so glad that happened. And second, I have my my movie podcast called Sinister's Movie Night that will be dropping on Thursday live. Me and my friend Hunter will be talking about From Dusk Till Dawn, the Robert Rodriguez film starring Quentin Tarantino and George Clooney. Basically, two guys get trapped in a bar full of vampires and they got to make their way out. So check that out, guys. And my TikTok, Alex Anime Reviews, to catch me talking about animes. And TMG Sports, TMG Entertainment, TMG Trivia. If you are a trivia fanatic, whether you like movie trivia, geek trivia, or sports trivia, please hit me up and I can get you a match as soon as possible. I have a sports trivia match coming up soon, and look out for that. So please hit me up and all that good stuff. And be back next week for the regular podcast. That's out. Let's get out. Peace out.